A couple of weeks ago, I did a video talking about the numerous WWE and AEW bidding wars over free agent wrestlers. And in that video, I said despite the fact that both companies signed some great wrestlers, I think that WWE just about did the better business. But something that I failed to mention and give more detail on was where I think the exact moment was that the bidding wars ended and that WWE kinda got the dub. And that's because I didn't realize at the time, but I now realize that the moment the bidding war ended was when WWE beat AEW in signing Stephanie Vaquer. Because with everything that Stephanie Vaquer has done so far and how much of a success story she has been in such a short amount of time, and all the circumstances surrounding her WWE signing, including the fact that it reportedly changed the way that AEW approached signing wrestlers, that they put protections in place to make sure it never happens again, it's a signing that I feel as though has definitely helped change the perception in regards to which company a wrestler would be better off signing for. But I'm rambling a lot right now. Before we get there and figure that all out, we need to go back to the very start. So like the video and let's talk about Stephanie Vaquer. Stephanie Vaquer was born in and began her wrestling career in the South American country of Chile, where her wrestling training would begin there in 2009, and while the exact date of her debut in wrestling isn't known, the earliest reports and records of a match involving Stephanie Vaquer were in August of 2010. Of course, taking place at a Chilean indie event where she would mostly wrestle for, obviously wrestling across her home country for the independent scene, and originally went under the name of Dark Angel. She would spend the next couple of years in her wrestling career wrestling exclusively in her home country across all the promotions there, with her ring name eventually being adjusted to what we know it as today, a portion of her real name, Stephanie Vaquer, with the earliest record of this name in use being in August of 2013. And it's in the mid-2010s now under the Stephanie Vaquer moniker and in-ring name when she'd start wrestling for promotions in Mexico, as she broadened her horizons and would start wrestling for Mexican independent companies. Her first breakout moment for Stephanie Vaquer though was in the summer of 2018 when Japanese women's promotion Stardom brought Stephanie in for an excursion. Going to Stardom for an excursion, or any Japanese promotion for that matter, is something that many other women's wrestlers other than Stephanie Vaquer have also done, and there's been many cases of people who have done these excursions who've gone on to become some of the best in the industry. Hint hint wink wink, but yeah, it's a pretty prestigious thing to be able to go over to Stardom or any promotion in Japan for an excursion. And following this, Stephanie Vaquer's stock would continue to build as she'd make a couple of appearances for who was arguably the top promotion in Mexico, CMLL, in 2019, before the next year in 2020 she would become a full-time member of the CMLL roster and would become the most active she's ever been in her wrestling career thus far. And Stephanie Vaquer would settle into CMLL very easily and quickly become a fan favorite. As for the next few years, she'd continue on and active in CMLL, and she'd contest for the women's belt, have another in Excursion Japan for promotion Ice Ribbon, and continue raising her stock. And most importantly, just showing how damn impressive she was in the ring. Her next big breakout moment wouldn't come until 2023 though, as she competed in the US for the first time. As in June 2023, she would face Mercedes Moné and New Japan Strong Resurgence, as they were both competing in a semi-finals match for a one-night tournament that was going on that show and taking place for the New Japan Strong Women's title to crown the inaugural champion. Mercedes Moné would defeat Stephanie Vaquer in a great match and great exposure for Stephanie and a great showing in her first time competing in America, and would obviously plant the seeds for later. Yes, I'm foreshadowing. Mercedes Moné, like I said, won that match against Stephanie and would go on to the finals where she would face Willow Nightingale and would lose this match as Willow Nightingale would win the belt. Mercedes Moné was actually meant to win but got injured during the course of the match, and so the finish was changed on the fly with Willow winning the belt, and she only held the belt for about 45 days before losing the belt to Julia. And yes, these are all important details for later on. And upon returning back to Mexico, Stephanie Vaquer's success and stock would rise even more rapidly, as in September of that year, herself and her tag partner Zeuxis would win the CMLL Women's World Tag titles, and then a few weeks later, she'd win even more gold as Stephanie Vaquer would win the CMLL Women's title title. Just like that, Stephanie Vaquer was double champion heading into 2024, was the top woman in CMLL, and would continue making appearances for New Japan Strong in America, and slowly but surely she was establishing herself as one of the best in the world. And she would help solidify that when in March of 2024 she would have a couple of more matches in Stardom once again in Japan, where she would defeat Julia to win the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, now making her a triple champion. And at this point, like I said, Stephanie Vaquer was one of the best wrestlers worldwide outside of WWE and AEW. She'd defend the belts a couple of times against the likes of Azumi and Alex Windsor, as she'd hold the belt through Forbidden Door season, hint hint wink wink, as she would start making appearances for AEW in mid-2024 during the build-up to Forbidden Door in what was Stephanie Vaquer's biggest exposure yet, and she was being built up to face the TBS champion Mercedes Moné in a match to unify both the TBS and New Japan Strong Women's Championships. She faced Lady Frost on an episode of Collision and defeated her in her AEW debut match, whilst Mercedes Moné faced Stephanie Vaquer's partner Zeuxis and pick up the win to build up to their match. And at Forbidden Door 2024, Mercedes Moné and Stephanie Vaquer would have an absolutely fantastic match to unify the belts, with Mercedes Moné ultimately coming out on top and getting the better of Stephanie Vaquer once again. And this was a great match and huge exposure for Stephanie Vaquer, and a huge statement for Stephanie Vaquer, who had just made herself in this match, as in the biggest match of her career she more than delivered despite the loss. Like I said, it exposed Stephanie Vaquer to American audiences, and it also exposed Stephanie Vaquer to WWE, as not long at all after following Forbidden Door, it was reported that both WWE and AEW were interested in Stephanie Vaquer and had made contract offers to her. And whilst many assumed at first that AEW would be the ones to get Stephanie Vaquer's signature, as their interest in her had been for much longer, and for the fact she had just wrestled 2 matches for them and a pay-per-view match for them, but lo and behold, it was later reported that WWE had shockingly taken the advantage in the talks and was the ideal destination, as it was officially confirmed on July 10th that WWE had just swooped in and won the race for Stephanie Vaquer's signature, and she had signed to the WWE. Wow, just like that. And before we even knew it, she was appearing in WWE rings as well, as just 3 days later, she made her live event debut for WWE. We had literally just seen her in an AEW pay-per-view ring weeks prior, and now she's already at a WWE live event. It was just crazy scenes at the time. Her quick start in WWE is something that garnered a bit of backlash, as it meant she didn't fulfill and finish the rest of her dates for CMLL and other indie bookings like RevPro namely, which yeah, I guess it sucks for the promotions, but at the same time, when you get a call from one of the bigger companies, whether it's WWE or AEW, I'd say the exact same thing, you just kinda gotta understand. This signing for Stephanie Vaquer to WWE happened so quick, and Vaquer nowadays is an active in NXT, and after picking up some wins and building up some momentum for a couple of months, she has just won the North American Women's title. And at this point in time, it is more than established that she is surely one of the best in the world today. I absolutely believe that. She is someone to me who instantly stands out amongst just not the NXT roster, but the entire WWE roster. And yeah, overall, it's gotta be one of the craziest steals and one of the craziest ordeals in the history of wrestling signings and wrestling bidding wars. It's the closest thing I've seen in wrestling to like a football transfer window, like deadline day. And I really do feel as though this signing changed the perception of how WWE and AEW signings do, and which is the more appealing company for a wrestler to sign for. I think Stephanie Vaquer, the way her run has gone and all the circumstances surrounding the fact that she chose WWE over AEW and they've treated her this well, it definitely shows incentive for wrestlers to choose WWE over AEW, which a few years ago just totally wasn't the case. The perception was that AEW was where the grass was greener and that WWE is where your career is gonna waste away and you'll get forgotten about and released as part of budget cuts. The perception has definitely shifted, and I can't help but think that the signing of Stephanie Vaquer to WWE is something that has really helped to shift and change that perception. Anyway, that's enough yapping from me. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of Stephanie Vaquer in WWE so far, and the entire situation and the entire ordeal with the AEW and WWE bidding war over her, and how that went down. Sound off in the comments, I'd love to hear it. Be sure to like this video if you did enjoy, and subscribe with notifications on so you never miss a video on the Top 10 Wrestling channel. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye, and keep on rolling.